Peoples of the worldwide federated internet. What's good? Returning to the book of Exodus, chapter 22, and you get into a lot of philosophical arguments, philosophical discussions, what have you, when you get into the book of Exodus. There's a lot of people who have debated many things you find within this book, and I'm going to get to a section right now where there is the classic debate of self-defense, and there's people who believe that you have no right to defend yourself, and I personally do not believe that that position is biblical at all. Now, there's many things within the Bible that you have to parse out. You have to read the Bible, take the whole Bible into account, and you have to understand what's being said. Like when we dealt with Exodus chapter 20, and God gave instructions about murder, right? Thou shalt not kill. And then you find situations in Exodus 21 where people do certain things and they should be put to death, capital punishment. So it's clear when you look at those two distinctions, God is clearly talking about indiscriminate murder, right? You get mad at somebody and you just decide you're taking them out. You have an argument with somebody, they have something you want, and you go kill them because you want it. Yeah, that's not sanctioned biblically at all. At all. Indiscriminate murder. All right, so now we're going to get into an area where this kind of goes into and in contradiction to what I've heard people argue about self-defense. So anyway, the book of Exodus, chapter 22 and verse 1. Let's get into this. Again, God coming and dealing with many things concerning civil law. If a man shall steal an ox or a sheep and kill it or sell it, he shall restore 5 oxen for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. So you steal somebody's things, you're caught, you have to return that with interest. Again, God establishing and looking after rights of an individual. Now here's where things get interesting. If a thief be found breaking up and be smitten that he died, there shall no blood be shed for him. So what happened? Somebody breaks into a house. The person in the house goes to defend themselves. The person who broke into the house is hit. He dies. No harm, no foul. This person was defending themselves. The intent wasn't to kill this person, but the intent was definitely to defend himself, right? No blood should be shed. Now, there are people who argue for pacifism. If someone is attacking you, you let it happen, you do nothing. That's not biblical. And I understand it seems correct and it seems right. And it makes me mindful of the verse in the book of Proverbs, trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not into thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him and he shall direct thy paths. And when I've heard people argue for pacifism and, you shouldn't do anything, you shouldn't defend yourself at all. The thing about the Bible is, and I've always said this to myself, you have to take the Bible in complete account. And if you hold to the opinion, to the view that you can never defend yourself, then verse 2 of Exodus chapter 22 makes absolutely no sense and is in complete contradiction. Verse 3, if the sun be risen upon him, there shall be blood shed for him, for he should make full restitution. If he have nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft. Right? So this idea of thievery was a big deal. It was a really big deal. And that's why sometimes I think people see stealing as such a small thing, like, oh, some sins are seen as small sins and some sins are seen as bigger sins, and this one doesn't matter. But God devotes time to this, right? Giving people instruction about this matter of thievery. So this is extremely important, right? If this thief is caught, then he shall be sold for his theft. He shall be sold for his theft. That's serious. Serious punishment for thievery. God is not playing around with this issue. If the theft be certainly found in his hand alive, whether it be ox or ass or sheep, he shall restore double. So they find him with the stuff that he stole. He's going to restore that plus some, double. Verse 5. If a man shall cause a field or vineyard to be eaten, he shall put in his beast and shall feed in another man's field of the best of his own field and of the best of his own vineyard shall he make restitution. So you use somebody else's stuff without their knowledge, you have to repay that. Again, God protecting the rights of the individual. Verse 6, if fire break out and catch in thorns, so that stacks of corn or the standing corn or the field be consumed therewith, he that kindleth the fire shall surely make restitution. God holding people accountable and again looking after the rights of the individual. What you did affected someone else. You have to be held accountable for this. This wasn't something that God just allowed people to get away with. Verse 7, if a man shall deliver unto his neighbor money or stuff to keep, and it be stolen out of the man's house, if the thief be found, let him pay double. Again, personal responsibility and adequate punishment for a crime. And this is one of the reasons why I think our current system of justice is not really justice. Not everything warrants a person being in prison, but there has to be some form of actual legitimate judgment against these situations. We can't just let them go with a slap on the wrist. Verse 8, if the thief be found, then the master of the house shall be brought unto the judges to see whether he have put his hand unto his neighbor's goods. Right? So if there was a thief and that thief belonged to this other household, they're going to bring the master of that household in to see, did you send your servant here to do this? Were you behind this? Holding people accountable, not just blaming people, right? They're going to be brought forth and this stuff was going to be hashed out. Verse 9, for all manner of trespass, whether it be for ox, for ass, for sheep, for raiment, or for any manner of lost thing which another challengeth to be his, the cause of both parties shall come before the judges, and whom the judges shall condemn, he shall pay double unto his neighbor. Again, this sets up the precedent that there wasn't just going to be vigilante justice. And this is why when you get to the New Testament, right, and the Lord Jesus Christ is dealing with the Pharisees, this is a really complex situation. because their understanding of what was going on in the Old Testament, the people at the time, they were really and truly viewing this as vigilante justice, and that's not how this was supposed to work. There were supposed to be judges, the cases were supposed to be heard, and the judges were supposed to make a determination of, okay, either this person's wrong or that person's wrong. It wasn't vigilante justice. Verse 10, if a man deliver unto his neighbor an ass or an ox or a sheep or any beast to keep, and it die, or be hurt or driven away, no man seeing it, then shall an oath of the Lord be between them both, that he hath not put his hand unto his neighbor's goods, and the owner of it shall accept thereof, and he shall not make it good. Again, dealing with these interpersonal situations that is going to arise. This guy sold something to this other guy. In the process, it was hurt. Well, how do you hash that out? Was it hurt before it got there? Like, how do you solve this? God is accounting for a lot of things that are going down to the nth detail. And this is, again, at this time, this is pretty incredible. I'm not saying there was no system of justice during this time, but I don't think there was any system of justice from everything I can look at historically that was this complete. Again, looking after the rights of the individual. Back then, in this time, you had a lot of monarchies, so the rights of the individual really didn't matter. You had a guy on top, he ruled everything, and whatever he said is what went. And this is not the way God is setting up the children of Israel. And as I said before, this is on purpose. They were to stand out. And if it be stolen from him, he shall make restitution unto the owner thereof. Again, this matter of thievery, very serious, and it should be addressed. It shouldn't just be allowed. If it be torn in pieces, then let him bring it for witness, and he shall not make good that which was torn. And if a man borrow aught of his neighbor, and it be hurt or die, the owner thereof being not with it, he shall surely make it good. So you borrow something from your neighbor, it's damage, you have to fix that situation. You have to make that good. Again, dealing with person-to-person situations, looking after the rights of the individual. But if the owner thereof be with it, he shall not make it good. If it be an hired thing, it came for his hire. And if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed, and lie with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. This is another one of those situations where this is definitely antithetical to what we see now. And I'm going to end here, and I'm going to end with this. The matter of who you're with sexually, even though in today's climate it doesn't matter at all, this is supposed to be your wife. And this was so serious that God, again, looking after the rights of the individual. At this time, you have to remember a woman who, different time, and this should be the same way for men and women now. A woman who was with a man would be looked at in a certain way, right? So let's say this guy's a smooth talker. Use the word entice here. What does that word mean? Let's look that up. Let's go to my trusty dusty. I say trusty dusty. It's just a saying. You get what I mean. My Noah Webster's 1828 dictionary, and look up the word entice, because I'm gonna bring this to situations that you could understand today. All right, so to incite or instigate by exciting hope or desire, usually in bad sense, as to entice one to evil. You got smooth talkers. There's a lot of dudes who are smooth talkers. This God is so perfect that he even deals with this. And for the dudes out there that will be smooth talkers and you entice this woman and she believes what you're saying and she sleeps with you, guess what? It is now your responsibility to marry this woman, especially at this time, because if not, this woman would be looked at negatively, right? She has been deflowered, as it was called at one point, right? She has been defiled, as it was called at one point. So he would be obligated to now marry this woman, as to not leave her high and dry. This is how God intended. God intended for sex to be between a man and his wife. This is the way it was intended. And even though that's something that's missed on us today, and it's definitely not something we practice, that does not change the fact that this is definitely the way God intended it. Without question. Y'all know what it is. Stay frosty, people.